Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Nate.
I'm gonna let everybody in, but I guess I'll make you, trying to see, I'm gonna make you a co-host so that, um, everyone can get in the room. Hi, Rochelle. Hi, Nisha. Hi, Amita. Hi, Mishora. Hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you?
Anna, how are you? Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course.
The notion. Okay, so let me make Umida. Let's see. Okay, let me just make you guys. Okay, Umida's now a co-host. Let me make Noshin co-host. Nisha, I'm gonna make you the host
Okay, that sounds good.
because I may need to leave early. Um, um,
Nina, I haven't been kicked out yet, so I'm guessing I'm gonna stay here till 7:30. So do you want me to just close the door after I leave and that's it if you're leaving early?
Thank you.
Of course. That sounds good. Okay, yeah.
So, you all now have, well, Nisha, you're the host, but you all have the ability to, well, I'm gonna make, hi, Noshin, how are you? Hi, Ben, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Um, okay, so Nisha, I'm gonna let you run the show, but I'll make Mishra also, and Suzanne and Vicky, should I make them co-hosts so they can help to let people in? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I'll make all the board
Oh,
members
right. Yeah, because you're
co-host.
now host, so you can do that.
Mhm. Yeah, and then I'll pin Noshin and Amita, and then also pin all the panelists.
So, I mean, do you want to wait to give some instructions to our panelists as to how you want to proceed, or?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think we should like wait for everybody to join then. And then for now, I'll just make everybody co-host. Sorry, Ben, you're the only person I pinned right now.
Well, Rochelle is here also.
Yeah. I'm also getting Sarah to join on in like a few minutes, so she should be coming in soon.
Hi, Emily.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
We're good. Nisha, you're okay?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm doing good. Okay, sorry. I just pinned everybody, I think. Did I miss anybody? Okay, yeah. So I think once all the panelists join, we can get started. I think everybody should be here probably by 6.
All right, Sarah's here, I see. And Emma just came in. Is anyone letting them in from the waiting room?
Yeah, I just did.
And Sarah too? Okay. Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
How
how's
are
it going?
you? Thank you for being here.
Sure, no problem. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good.
Nina, from your end, does it show everybody as pinned? Like when I hover over Vicky and Emma and Rochelle, it's not letting me click add pin. Maybe because then everybody in the Zoom would be pinned.
It may have something to do with the settings for I don't know, it may have something to do with the settings for on this particular meeting. I'm not sure.
Is it okay if you try
If
from
you
your
do
end?
spotlight for everyone,
Mhm.
do you have the option spotlight for everyone? Like, is that the same thing? Like, because I feel like I think when you pin it, I think it's individual.
Let me try that. Okay. Is that what you meant, Susanna?
Yeah, I can see myself like as the main screen now.
Okay, awesome.
And you were the main screen before, Anisha.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why when I accidentally pressed Nisha's name, like to spotlight, and then like she came up. So.
Okay, thank you.
And then are Noshin and Umida going to be managing the chat? Is that how you're working it?
Yeah, we'll be reviewing the chat and then asking any questions that might pop up there.
Okay.
Well, excuse me, Nina. I have a slideshow prepared if and
Sure.
any of the students are interested. But I think screen sharing is disabled right now.
So Nisha, I think you can make that change as the host.
Yeah, I changed the settings so everybody, I mean, you should be able to screen share now.
Oh, I see it. Thank you.
Perfect.
So I'm just gonna pin Noshin and Amita and then only pin the panelists. For the board members, we'll just add a spotlight when we're introducing ourselves. Thank you everyone joining. We'll just give students a few more minutes to join before we start the meeting. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining. We'll just give it another minute or two to let everybody join the Zoom, and then we'll get started.
Nisha, I'm not sure if I'm doing it correctly. Do you want me to pin, who do you want me to pin? Just the participants or?
I was thinking we could pin the panelists and Nashinamita, but honestly, I don't even think that's necessary because once your mic is unmuted, it'll highlight the person anyway.
So,
So I think it's all right. It's okay. We'll just get started.
okay, I mean, I can continue to try to do it. Go ahead, you can.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. I apologize for the wait, everybody, but thank you for joining. I'm Nisha. I'm the Student Program Director for PHMI. We'll just get started by introducing all of our board members and our amazing ambassadors that will be moderating the event today, as well as introducing our very accomplished panelists. So yeah, I'll pass it off to Nina and then to Vicky.
Hi, everyone. So good to see you. Sorry for any technical difficulties. We will straighten all of this out, but we have a fantastic panel tonight representing a variety of different health professions, and all of the individuals here were former or currently are mentoring for PHMI. So we're very proud of their accomplishments, and we're very happy that they could come back and speak about their path and answer all of your questions. And then, of course, we have fabulous moderators, Noshin and Umida, who are going to be asking the questions, and then we'll field all of your questions in the chat. So thank you for joining. And again, I'm Nina Lidis, faculty supervisor for PHMI, and very happy to be here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Vicky. I'm the PHMI Mentor Relations Coordinator. Just like I'm assuming all of you guys, I'm really excited to hear from the panelists and see how they were successful in their chosen career choice. Yes, I will pass it off to Emily.
Hey everyone, my name's Emily and I'm the PHMI Mentee Relations Coordinator. And just like everyone else, I'm sure, I am very excited to listen to what everyone's got to say. And with that, I'll pass that off to Susanna.
Hi guys, my name is Susanna and I'm the administrative coordinator for the PHMI board, and I'm really excited to hear tonight from all of our panelists and how their pre-health journey went and has continued since Hunter. And I'm passing it to Mashura.
Thank you, Susanna. And hi, everyone. My name is Mishura, and I'm the ambassador coordinator for PHMI. I recently graduated from Hunter with a major in biochemistry, and it is a pleasure to see all of you here today. It's amazing. We already have almost 60 participants, and I'm really excited to hear what the panelists have to say. And yeah, so I'll pass it off to the PHMI ambassador, Umida, and Nashin as well, who will be moderating today's event.
Hey guys, my name is Umida. I'm a junior and the PHMI mentor and ambassador. I'll be moderating this event with Noshin.
Hi, everyone, and my name is Noshin. I'm a senior at Hunter College, and I'll be moderating the event today. So just before we start, if you have any questions at all during the event, please drop them in the chat, and then Rita and I will direct them towards our panelists.
We'll also introduce Emma, our social media director.
Hi guys, I hope you're doing well in this beautiful weather today. My name is Emma and I'm the social media director for PHMI, and I hope you guys enjoy our meeting. We have a bunch of really successful panelists who've gotten accepted to their pre-health professional schools, and we really hope that you enjoy and ask a lot of questions because there's going to be a lot of informative information for your future endeavors. And yeah.
So now the panelists can start introducing themselves. Can we start with Malika?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm so excited to be here. So I graduated Hunter this winter. I majored in biochemistry, and I will be attending SUNY Downstate Medical School this August. I got in through the PHMI program. It's an early assurance program that Downstate offers. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and answer any of your questions.
Thank you so much, Malika. Nada, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, my name is Nada. I graduated from Hunter back in 2020. Took 2 gap years, and then I matriculated into the Tri-I MD PhD program. And I've been here now for about 1.5 years, or coming on to 2 years actually.
Thank you so much, Nada. Can Joyce introduce herself?
Hi everyone, my name is Joyce. I'm a current second year at SUNY Optometry. I graduated from Hunter, I want to say in 2021, so during the COVID year. Thank you so much all for coming, and we're excited to answer your questions and hopefully be of some help.
Thank you. It looks like we have a few COVID graduates in the chat, hoping to hear from you guys about how that affected your experience. Ryan, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I graduated Hunter College at 2022. I took a gap year and currently am at Pennsylvania College of Optometry at South University, which will soon be Drexel University.
Thank you so much. Can Ben introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Ben Blair. I'm a first-year physical therapy student at Columbia University, and I'm a 2022 alumni from Hunter College.
Thank you. How about Alba? Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Alba. I graduated Hunter in fall of 2022, and I'm currently a PA student at Pace University, Lenox Hill, and I'm excited to answer everyone's questions.
Thank you, Alba. Jasmine, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I'm a first-year veterinary student at the University of Pennsylvania, and I graduated just last year. I didn't take a gap year.
Thank you so much. Now former dental student, Sarah, could you introduce yourself?
Guys, my name is Sarah Greenberg. I'm a second-year dental student at University of Pennsylvania, and I graduated 2022, the major in biology and studio art.
Thank you so much. And now, last but not least, Rochelle, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm the other Greenberg. I'm Rochelle. That was my twin. I went to a podiatry school. My major was in biochemistry and studio art with a cultural anthropology minor. And I also graduated in 2022, so it's my second year in podiatry school.
Thank you so much. Now that we've had all our panelists introduce themselves, again, to all our participants today, if you have any questions during any of the responses, just drop them in the chat and we'll direct them to our speakers today. But we'll start off with a pretty easy question. And our question is, which extracurriculars were you involved in while in undergrad?
Whoever wants to start first can answer, but we'd like everybody to answer if possible.
I could start. I think I was involved in like a bunch of pre-health clubs. I also did because I think for pre-health they require you to do stuff that's like outside of just the clubs. So they have like research you're supposed to be doing to get the committee letter and a bunch of other programs. So I was like volunteering at BioBus. I was like volunteering at a crime victims like treatment center, and I was doing research and I was doing like clubs. So like the clubs on campus there that were on Hunter, from what I recall, were just mostly like helping out with the office, any of like the cultural clubs on campus. I was like the president for a few. So that was what I did at least.
I could go next. So I did volunteer activities such as I volunteered as a crisis text line counselor with crisis text line. And then also I volunteered at a hospital for special surgery and Mount Sinai through their CARES program. I also did research because for pre-med, we do need research. So I did research. I applied to various
What is your
summer.
called?
Sorry. Oh, sorry. So I applied to various summer research programs, and I did that. And then also at Hunter, I did undergraduate student government. I was part of that, and some other clubs as well.
I'll go next. So I think at least for dental school, they are more interested in your like experience in the field. So I worked as a dental assistant since my first year and balanced that with the schoolwork. Plus, I did do a cultural club on campus, and I did one summer of research. Like totally no pressure on that one. And I did just like a few other clubs, and since I was doing the art major, I got to do a lot of just like fun art extracurriculars.
I could go
I
next.
can go next. Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go. So I actually was part of PHMI for all my time at Hunter. So I was a mentor, mentee. I did social media director and a program director. So I spent a lot of time doing that. I also worked as a scribe at urgent care. And I was also a student during COVID, so I did a lot of like virtual shadowing. I also did a virtual research through Weill Cornell called Microbe Directory.
So I'll go next. I have a pretty similar background with everyone that's talked already. I was part of a lot of clubs on campus. I was also part of PHMI and mentored throughout the years, even after I graduated. I worked as an ophthalmic technician at a couple of offices and extended that during my gap year. And then I even got the chance to come back to Hunter and teach our introductory lab course during my gap year. So I had a lot of experience kind of talking with freshmen students and hearing their feedback about their classes. And those are just some of the extracurriculars that I did.
I can go next. I was a receptionist at a veterinary clinic for a portion of my time. But then I went into an emergency hospital where I worked as a emergency and critical care veterinary assistant, as well as the sort of laboratory technician there. I also did volunteering with Gallup New York City, volunteering with Animal Haven Shelter, Crisis Text I did, and I also did research with Dr. Alexandrados in a water remediation lab at Hunter.
I can go next. So most of my extracurriculars were research based because that's a lot of what you need for an MD PhD program. So I was in many labs throughout my time at Hunter and also did like a CERP program at Mount Sinai. Those are like the summer research programs. I was also doing, in terms of like my clinical experiences, I volunteered at Lenox Hill. I did heart to heart like on and off. I did a little bit of shadowing. I was also working as a tutor in like the science center, just for like Bio 100. And then I was also volunteering at the Arab American Family Support Center, and I think that basically covers it.
I,
Ron,
oh, okay.
you're good. Thank you.
Thank you. So my experience was mainly related to physical therapy because they do require either volunteering or work hours. So I worked in a couple of outpatient clinics, a wellness clinic, and also inpatient. And during my time at Hunter, I worked as a personal trainer. And I also did some virtual shadowing because I was a pandemic student. And I took a gap year, about a year and a half off, and I really got to get into the field and work in different settings to really like convince myself that this was the right track for me.
Thank you. And Ryan, can you answer that question?
Yeah, so optometrist is kind of similar to what Sarah said. It's more emphasis on experience. So I worked as an ophthalmic tech since my sophomore year, all the way to my fourth year. And during my gap year, I worked in Manhattan Eye and Philip Hospital. I dabbled in research, but I wasn't too invested in it. I guess that's the great thing about the pre-op committee, because it lets you it mandates you to try different things like research, different types of extracurriculars, so you can take a deep dive in what you like and dislike.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, did you have any defining moments in your undergraduate years that influenced what path you wanted to take in your career? Can we have Sarah start?
Defining years. Ooh, okay. I'll be honest, I kind of knew I wanted to do dentistry from the get-go. Like I saw the MCAT, I saw the pre-med stuff, and I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. So I made an elective decision to not be interested in pre-med and do dentistry. It did also kind of combine the things that I liked the most, which was biology and art. I think like the defining year, I would say, is once you get through your really bulk science courses and you actually feel like you're meant to be doing this so that you have the potential to go on. I would say that probably I'd say actually like end of sophomore year, transition to junior year is like when you finally get a handle of all the course load, finally have experienced like a decent amount of labs, and you probably already are doing the extracurricular that's related to your profession, is probably that pivotal point of like, okay, I can see myself being here and accomplishing this in the future and like make sure to show up. And then, the one pivotal moment was actually getting in. And I applied like a crazy person without a gap year. So I was applying like through junior year and all that. So I'd say that that was definitely a life-changing time doing all that plus everything else. And then finding out senior year where I was going.
Thank you. Ben, would you like to go next?
Sure. So what persuaded me to get into physical therapy was some like personal relationships I had with family. I witnessed kind of the restorative power of physical therapy, both in an outpatient like orthopedic setting, which I can imagine many of you mainly think of physical therapists as, but also in the hospital. It's a much more intimate and just kind of more vulnerable setting for us to work. And after seeing some family members go through that and seeing how they came out, I realized that this is like a field that I really want to embark on. And I think I had inclinations that I would go down this path as early as high school. But I think I was like really sure going on like my sophomore or junior year of college. Luckily, I had some time off before starting college and matriculating, so I was able to apply during my gap year. And if you're able to take a gap year, I would greatly recommend it.
Thank you so much. Alba, would you like to go next?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I was kind of undecided on what I wanted to do, and my freshman year was when COVID hit. So I feel like for me, COVID was a defining factor that like solidified that I wanted to go to PA school. And the reason that was I did a lot of virtual shadowing. So I did shadowing of like all different specialties, and PA was the one that stood out to me the most. And then as COVID kind of went on, I got the chance to shadow a PA, shadowing a PA in the hospital and just seeing what he does on a day-to-day basis, especially during COVID, which things were so much more crazy then. I think that's what solidified that that's the right path for me, and that's what I could see myself doing best compared to all other specialties.
That's awesome. Thank you. Malika, do you want to go?
Yeah, so like Sarah, I also knew like from the beginning of my undergrad year that I wanted to go into medicine and follow the physician's path. And the reason why is because of my own personal experiences and what my family went through. And what really solidified it for me was when I started shadowing my pediatrician and then also a neurologist and seeing their day-to-day life as physicians. So it kind of like solidified it for me, and then I knew that's what I wanted to do. And then also volunteering at the emergency department as well, just trying to like see like what it's like being in that field. That really helped me.
Thank you. Jasmine, would you like to go?
Yeah, I think it's pretty common in veterinary medicine where people just sort of have decided at a very young age that animals are just their thing and that's what they want to do. And that was pretty much my scenario. But when I was in college and I started to work at the emergency clinic that I did, I saw a lot of inherent issues within the field that I wanted to address. And couples, while I was working there, my dog was sick with lymphoma, and his cancer diagnosis sent me on a academic spiral.
Thank you for sharing that. That must have been very difficult. Yes, guys, feel free to ask any questions if you have any in the chat. We'll ask the panelists them next. Nada, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I think for me, it really was like a slow building to coming into like where I'm at right now. So I knew that I wanted to explore the pre-med path when I got to Hunter. And I think because they also do require you to basically sample what medicine would be like along the way throughout your 4 years or whatever. It really is a good way to confirm if like you are built for this path, or if this path is like where you see yourself spending, the rest of your life. And so I think like through my clinical experiences and through my research experiences, I was kind of confirming it. Research wise, like what really kicked me into MD PhD, I think I just really had an affinity for wanting to ask
questions that we don't have answers to yet that could potentially impact the medical field. And I think like one of the labs that was in Hunter, like Dr. Jane Raper's lab, was pretty critical, like in terms of like the mentorship and the culture. I would say she was like a transformative lab to be in, like for my journey, just because like she gave me a lot of confidence in myself as a scientist, and it just completely changed the way that I even applied. Because I wasn't applying like, oh, I like this path, like, but I'm not sure if I can do it. I applied like, I like this path and I know I can do it, because she really pushed me to like see that I can think for myself, I can critically think, I can do my own experiments. And so I think finding the right mentor, and this applies for any experience, was just critical to like how I felt about myself and how I felt about the path.
Thank you. Rochelle, can you go next?
Sure. Yeah, I actually never knew about podiatry or wanted to do it until like after I took my MCAT, honestly. I literally was like ready to prepare to apply to MD school or like DO school. I did like everything. I was like set for the committee letter, and then I kind of was like watching my brother go through medical school, and I was like, I don't know if I want to like do this. Just because for me, I wanted to have like more reassurance and like what residency options I could have, and something that was like more focused in my early on in my education. I didn't really want to like do 2 years of like general education and then like explore a little. I kind of was like more insistent on specializing earlier. So I worked in an interventional cardiology office, and they worked alongside a lot of podiatrists for difficult like non-healing ulcers and vasculature issues. So through them I was kind of exposed to podiatry, and I realized like I still like go through a as intensive a training as I would want to go through for like MD and DO school, because the first 2 years of podiatry school you take the same courses as them. They just shift over to more lower extremity focus, and I kind of like that I get to like work in clinic hands-on like before doing like before residency, before like clerkships and stuff, and kind of developing skills a little bit earlier. And then while I'm doing residency for like 3 years after I'm doing surgeries, I'm still like actively like very involved with different medical professions, just more specialized earlier on into my like academic career.
Thank you. Ryan, can you answer the question as well?
Yeah, I'm in a similar, I was in a similar position as Rochelle was. I knew I wanted to do optometry with work-life balance, and I genuinely like prescribing glasses and refracting patients, working at a 9 to 5 schedule. That's what I see myself doing in the future, and that's what got me into optometry.
Thank you. And last but not least, Joyce.
Hi, I have a pretty similar, I guess, defining moment as Rochelle. I also wanted to specialize early. So similar to Ryan, like we do optometry school for 4 years, and we get to see clinical cases, get into clinic as early as your first year, where you're shadowing your upper year interns. Um, I guess another defining moment would be when I was working as a technician. I got to work alongside ophthalmologists and optometrists, and seeing that collaboration between the two healthcare professionals and the interprofessionalism between the two was really great to me. So I think that there's a lot of pathways that you can take as an optometrist, and that's kind of what made me decide early on pursuing optometry.
Okay, thank you all so much for your question, for your answers to that first question. We do have a question in the chat for Nada, if you're very open to answering it. And the question is, why did you choose MD PhD if you are able to do research as a medical doctor? And why did you choose to try eye?
Sorry, if I'm able to do research just as a doctor?
Yes, so the question, I'll repeat it. Why
Okay.
did you choose MD PhD if you are able to do research as a medical doctor or with the MD only? And why did you choose to try eye?
Okay, so I think that's a good question. For me, I really did want the training of the PhD. My PIs, I've had a PI that was just an MD. She did research as an MD. I had a PI that was just a PhD, and I had a PI that was an MD PhD. And they all approach their research very differently, obviously, because they're also different people. But for example, like the PI that just had her PhD was very like technically focused. Like she knew a lot of like she could ask really good questions about like what buffer did you use? Like, what were the conditions here? And like it was just very different than like the MD who obviously had a clinical practice and could like come with clinical questions from what she was seeing with her patients, and like it really focused, like it really had a very clinical goal with her work. Um, and I think with the MD PhD, it was pretty much combined, where it was a bit of both of those. And it obviously also like depends on how you approach your research, like how you want to run your lab, like how you want your research to go. And so for me, I just really did want the training on both sides. I wanted to have as much information as I could as like trained scientist, as a trained clinician, and then combine those together. And I think the perk is also the MD PhD is paid for. And for me, like the investment of time is worth it. So I had a tough time choosing between schools, and I would say I ended up choosing the Tri-I because of the community. I just felt like these would be people that have a good combination of like nerdiness, but like I can hang out with you. Um, and then it seemed like also like there were a lot of like good options for like PIs, and it seemed like the office was very willing to like help you find a PI and like give you or connect you to people that could help speak to you about their experiences in these labs. So I just felt like it would have been a very supportive environment for me, and so that's like why I chose it.
That's great. Thank you so much. I hope that was a plug for Tri-I for anyone interested in applying. Now I have a question for all panelists. This question I'll put in the chat right after asking, but it reads, what are some of the challenges you faced from your undergraduate years up until pursuing graduate school? And is there anything you would have done differently looking back? Let's see. Jasmine, would you want to take this question first?
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the question was, what are some challenges I faced, like sort of on the road to pursuing graduate school?
From undergrad to graduate school, yes.
Okay. My biggest challenge was, I think, academically, I did have some grades in my undergrad that I wasn't really proud of, that because I didn't get a good grade in that class, it wasn't really about the grade, it was that I didn't have the fundamentals as I progressed on in my further like science courses. And so what's the course I'm specifically talking about is biology 102, I think the number is, that I did not have a good grasp on. And because of that, I had to work sort of twice as hard in biochemistry courses in order to rebuild my foundation from while also trying to keep up with the material. And what I would have done differently is I had a lot of trouble in biology 102 because it was moved online for COVID. I'm not very good at learning over over the internet at home. I was just a few meters away from my bed, and if I could have done that differently, I would have just made sure to really set my boundaries between what's my home life and what is my school life, um, which would have allowed me to just focus better.
Thank you for that. I think many other students could resonate with that answer. Ryan, would you want to answer that question?
I'm gonna need a second to think about this. I'll get right back to
Of
it.
course, yes. We could have someone else go in the meantime. Sarah?
So definitely touched on one with my
It is a hard question, yes.
Oh, no, it's okay. I have had very similar experiences. I think a lot of the first science courses you take are designed to challenge a lot of people on whether they're interested in the profession or not. And I think that, there's pros and cons to that. However, and it's common with every program that you're in that happens. But I definitely had a very hard time with my initial course load of sciences. I was like coming from a very liberal arts high school coming in, so I definitely was not prepared for biology at all, especially bio too. That one's still just like nightmares occasionally though. But I think that once you get past the hurdle of like those kind of, I would guess, quote unquote weed out courses that people would describe them as, coming into like my higher level courses, I didn't actually feel like I had to work even harder. I actually felt like because I put so much work into my like first level courses, studying for the higher up biology courses was actually easier for me because I was dealing with so much more stress to begin with and like really questioning my study habits that once I got to those higher level courses, I was like, okay, I know how to approach this class. I know what I'm weak in. I know like when I need to start studying realistically for me because it's different for everybody. Um, I ended up having really good grades for like past that point. So like once you like kind of pinpoint what you're struggling with, going forward is easier. I do think it's hard to balance extracurriculars with everything else. Like definitely like I overkilled myself also first year by deciding to work like 40-hour weeks like a sociopath. Don't look about that. I think you should definitely like take your first year to adjust everything before you start matriculating your extracurriculars and your other interests. And if you are considering going straight in like I did, like, you know, you have to plan ahead. But it may mean you having to take summer classes that you didn't anticipate taking, may mean you also having to deal with a lot of pressure during your junior years. You have to consider when you're taking like orgos and all that fun stuff. So, you know, definitely like if you have an expectation of what you're hoping to achieve when you come out of here, make a plan. Like it doesn't have to be a hard plan, but like a rough plan of like, can I endure this with the course load that I'm probably going to end up taking? And if and when do I want to do that?
Thank you for that very valuable advice. Alba, would you want to take the question next?
I think the biggest thing that I struggled with was my first year coming into college and managing my time with everything because I found it very difficult transitioning from like a high school course load to a college course load. And I was taking a lot of hard classes coming into it. But I eventually learned how to manage everything and how much time I need to allocate for each class and what I need to be doing for each class in order to be successful. So if I could go back in time, that's probably one thing that I would change, so that I wouldn't have struggled as much my first semester. But I did learn from that, and I ended up recovering from that and doing a lot better later on in my college career. And then those skills that I learned then, I still use to this day when I'm studying in grad school. So that's probably one of the biggest things that I would like to change if I went back.
That's great to hear how adaptable you were. Thank you. Ryan, are you ready to answer that question?
Yeah, definitely study strategy, I'd say was a lot different. Throughout my years in undergrad, I felt like it was getting better. But one thing in retrospect, it's your study habits are always going to change. Even in graduate school as well, I see that the way I study is still continuing to change, and it could be a good thing. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Malika, do you want to take the question?
Yes, so like everyone have mentioned, I would say that in the beginning it was really difficult for me, like the initial courses like bio. It was definitely challenging for me as well. And I think it was because the transition from going to a high school that didn't really offer a lot of AP classes in like the science field, and then going into Hunter, which their classes are really intense, especially the weed out classes, like I mentioned before. So I think that was really challenging for me because I didn't really know like how to properly study, but it did get better. Like I learned how to adjust to like the difficult intensity of the classes. So and then also like I learned to ask for help, and if I didn't understand something, like, you know, there's the Skirball Center, definitely going there, and definitely going to office hours. So it made me more like proactive. So I think, yeah, it does get better at the end. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we're all glad to hear that it does get better at the end. How about you, Ben? Would you like to share a bit about your challenges faced?
Sure. So I just want to mirror the sentiment that a lot of people shared, which was that I struggled a lot with my academics coming into college. I just was not prepared with the study skills that I learned from high school. And a lot of the courses that, you know, we take, like those upper level science classes, require more than just, you know, cramming the night before, which was the strategy that I relied on and truthfully still rely on sometimes now if I can afford it. But, you know, I think the main thing for me was realizing that like college was a means to an end for me. And a lot of the classes I just couldn't like justify putting in the work because I couldn't like see kind of where things were going. So things definitely did get easier when I realized like what I was working towards. I realized like these are the classes that, you know, I'll be judged on. And the reason I have to do well is because they'll reflect how like good an applicant I am for the schools that I'm applying to. So, you know, there will be an end and there is a reason that you're doing all of this. So, you know, kind of to mirror the sentiment that Sarah said, like I urge you to kind of recognize what are you working towards and finding the reason that you're doing all of this in the first place.
Thank you so much. I think many of us can relate about the need to change your mindset and framework about how you approach everything. Joyce, would you like to share?
So I definitely agree with what most of our panelists have said. The intro classes that you take in your first and second year are probably the roughest, including bio and orgo. And I remember I think it was Alba who mentioned like some of the things that she's learned at Hunter has carried over with her into her graduate studies. And I do agree that once you get past those core foundational classes and you take your higher level courses, for example, I got the chance to take immunology. You get to apply those skills and foundational learning in your graduate studies, and it does help build on what you have to learn later on. So I definitely think that being involved and being proactive when you need the help would be really important. And another thing that was also mentioned was study strategies. And I would definitely highlight that point because every class that you study for is not likely to be the same in your graduate program or even at Hunter. So just remember that when you're studying, don't just stick to one strategy. If it's not working, try and find another strategy. And I think that's something I would have done more if I was to go back into my undergraduate years.
Absolutely. The need to be adaptable and realize what works and what doesn't work is really critical to doing well on your pre-health journey. Okay, now we'll hear from our last couple of panelists for this question. Rochelle, do you want to share?
Yeah, sure. I guess my advice is not going to be as academic just because I think everyone like hears a lot of academic advice. I think like there's a lot of pressure to get certain things done off of a checklist and do certain things and meet certain standards. And I think like being at Hunter and like in the science classrooms, especially in the beginning with like 800 other kids in the room, you do feel pressure to achieve certain standards. But I'm gonna be honest with you, like a lot of it is not that big of a deal. Like I really think if I had gone back and like actually took the time to figure out what I wanted to do and what was important to me in my career and like my future, I would definitely like not put so much pressure on me to achieve like all the stuff I did in my undergraduate. And like obviously the baseline things you do want to achieve, like you want to have a good you want to have a good GPA, you want to like make sure you're prepared for whatever examination you need to take, like MCAT, DAT, whatever it is. But like, you know, I personally would have like put more time into take a gap year because I didn't do that and that was like honest big mistake. I'm exhausted. And B, just like give yourself time to actually like be young and like go through undergrad. Like there's a lot of pressure for you to do like certain pre-med standards, but grad school will take up all of your time. Like it is going to be harder. It doesn't matter if you're doing optometry, it doesn't matter if you're doing med school, it doesn't matter if you're doing dental school, PT school. You're going to be studying way more than you ever did in undergrad. You're going to have way harder tests, way more frequent tests. So I do think like, yes, like you should try your best to like put your best foot forward and do everything you possibly can. But at the same time, like figure out what you want to do because some of the stuff you might be doing might be extra work and it's not as serious as you might think. Like as long as you're authentic in your application and you're authentic in your desires to pursue that field and you like actually have experiences correlating to that, you can make it. But just focus on like the baseline stuff, which is your GPA and your scores, and then make sure that you just kind of make sure your decision is like correlated, like and is reflected in your CV and your resume.
Thank you so much. I think we all appreciated that non-academic advice. All right, Nada, would you like to share?
Sure. So I can share two things. One thing I was like alluring to before was that like I only developed like confidence in my abilities as a scientist like in my senior year. And so I think like just being confident in myself like was an important thing, was a challenge for me. And it took like both the actual experience of being pushed into a position of like being confronted with like a challenge that could help me see myself as a scientist, and then also just my own mindset change of like being like there's no one way of being a scientist. Yes, there, or even like a student or like anything that you want to like go into. Um, like your specific way or like your different way of thinking or your different way of doing things like bring something to the table. If everything was already done, we wouldn't have any problems to fix in the lab or things to discuss. And so I think it was just an adjustment of like maybe there's like a prototypic success that I'm comparing myself to, and I'm not that, but like I still have like things that I could bring to the table. And then the second challenge was that my MCAT was canceled like 10 days before the actual test because of like the pandemic, and they weren't like communicating anything. And so months were passing by and they were saying nothing, and I had to make a decision if I wanted to just push myself to still apply like for that year and pray that they open up like MCAT test dates in the summer. But then I would have had to deal with potentially having like a later MCAT than everybody else. And so the second challenge, I guess, was like having to like make new decisions kind of last minute. And that's kind of what pushed me to take the second year. And it was a really good decision for me because it helped me get more research experience. It helped me put together a way more thoughtful application that would have been rushed otherwise. And was like a major lesson in just being flexible because when I went into undergrad, and as I was putting myself on the pre-med path, I thought I was just going to go straight through. And then I was like, okay, maybe an extra year just to like prepare and take my time with things. And then COVID pushed for like another year.
Thank you so much. Actually, that leads me to my next question. There's going to be a question that's specifically for the med students, Sonata and Malika. For those who are pursuing medicine and didn't take a gap year, so Malika, what did the timeline look like for extracurriculars, MCAT prep, and the application process? And I'll ask the question for Nada after this.
So I applied to the medical school through the early assurance program, like I mentioned before. So I'll start with the extracurricular activity. So that I obviously did like throughout my undergrad. And then this program, the ME program specifically, is a 2-year program, right? So, well, not 2-year summer program. So the first summer, which was this past summer, they help us with MCAT prep, and then it's up to us if we want to take the MCAT after the preparation or wait till like March. So I took my MCAT in September after I studied during the summer, and then once I got the score, I was able to pass to the second part of the program, which is gonna happen during this summer now. So I guess like because I was in this program, it's kind of different for me. But yeah, so that was my experience not taking a gap year.
Thank you so much. Okay, and for Nada, since you did take a gap year, what were the benefits of that gap year and how did you use that gap year? You sort of spoke about it already. If you don't want to answer it, it's fine as well.
No, I can. So there were many, many benefits to the gap year. I think it's after I took my MCAT, which was like during my first gap year, it was this like really nice period of time where I didn't have any like tests or like major deadlines up until I had to like apply for medical school. So it was really, really nice to have a period of time where I could just work and like live my life and like have an identity outside of being a student. Because I will be a student basically for the rest of my life until I become an attending. Um, and so there was that. I think also it was really nice to not feel rushed in terms of the like packing in certain extracurriculars in a certain period of time or having to take tests by a certain period of time or apply by a certain period of time. For me, I think really accumulating enough research experiences so that I felt confident in myself as an applicant was the most important part. I wanted to like apply with like a full-time research experience. And so I spent my gap years as a research technician. I don't remember if there was like a first part to that question, but at least that's like the gap year component.
Yeah, that was the question. Thank you so much. It is really important to let everybody know that you can take your time and that this will be your life for a while. So it's good that you recognize that and you to, take some time off. Okay, we're gonna have a question for all the panelists now. What was the best piece of advice you were given, and how did it shape your mindset and career path? Can we start with Sarah?
Okay, I have to think about that. Best piece of advice I ever got. I think if you genuinely are interested in the profession and love the most important aspects of it, you'll get through it. That's what someone told me when I was working as a dental assistant in my hours. He told me if you genuinely love this, you can wake up every day and see yourself doing this. Um, you'll find a way to get through it, which is, I know, super cliche. I rolled my eyes when he told me at the time, but honestly, like all the little details just start to fade away the more you go into your profession and the more you take like relevant course load, and when you have like these experiences that really shape your decision making, especially the patient experiences. I think ultimately that with all that happening and with that just genuine passion driving you rather than just pure exhaustion or, the expectations driving you, it just feels more bearable. If you like wake up every day and be like, I'm one step closer to my goal. I know I'm not really an optimist, but I will say like I did like gaslight myself into being an optimist about it, and it ultimately ended up happening, and it felt better every day going into like all my courses and doing extracurriculars or just every day full of things. Because at the end of the day, I would be like, oh, I like feel so accomplished because I'm one step closer. Because like if you come into it with a negative mindset, you're just never going to like enjoy what you're doing, and then you're just gonna burn yourself out so quick.
Yeah, you're totally right. Keeping your mindset in check is really important. Alba, would you like to answer the question?
I think the best piece of advice that somebody gave me was not to rush through everything. Because at the end of the day, it's a career that you're going to be working on for the rest of your life, and you're going to be putting so much work into it, and it's what you're going to be doing, like I just said, like for your whole life. So if you're going to rush into it and you're not so sure if this is actually what you want or not, it's probably not the smartest idea to just rush into everything and just try and get through it. Because like Sarah was saying before, if it's something that you truly like and something that you actually want to do, it won't feel like work to you, and it'll just be so much easier to actually get through it in comparison if you're just doing it just to have a career. It's just going to be hard for you to even get through it if it's something that you're not interested in. So I just recommend like shadowing, just seeing what actually it entails, being in the career path that you're interested in, and just making sure that that's what you want before you have your mindset on it.
Thank you. Yeah, taking your time seems to be a common theme today. Ryan, would you like to answer the question as well?
Yeah. One advice I had was don't compare yourself to others. I feel like we all have well, comparing yourself to other people, it's downstream is not going to go well for your own mental health. So I mean, you should always have your own goals, but um, I guess you can be in a really bad mental state with some basic comparisons like test scores and everything. So always take a step back and try to, yeah, that's what it's pretty self-explanatory, but yeah, that's my advice.
Yep, totally. Let's see. Joyce, would you like to answer next?
An advice I would give that I got was to be proactive. So from all the shadowing experiences I've had, all of the optometrists are always so happy to share their experience. So honestly, the worst case scenario is the doctor is busy and you're not able to see them, you're not able to shadow them that day. But most of the time, everyone loves, or as my doctor put it, everyone likes to talk about themselves. So if you were to ask them about something that they love to do, they're obviously going to tell you everything that they love about it. And hopefully you'll have that same mindset when you do pursue this career.
That's definitely great advice for people who are looking for extracurriculars or shadowing experience. Okay, Ben, would you like to go next?
Sure. So just to mirror what people have been saying, I think the most important thing is doing what you love. And if you don't know yet what you love, I recommend that, you be proactive and you be assertive. Get into the clinic, test different experiences, see kind of what catches you. I assume everyone here, who's in pre-health or pre-medicine has some sort of interest in the health sciences, has an interest in helping people medically. But what niche you'll end up in, I really recommend like you get into the clinic and find out whether it's observing or, working in the clinic. Even for physical therapy, I mean, I'm still undecided, but, I had the opportunity to take a gap year and I spent a lot of time kind of poking my head into different clinics, seeing different business models, different settings. And as far as applications go, just I think the most important piece of advice that I could give is you really want to get your applications in early, at least for physical therapy school. Most schools are accepting people on a rolling basis. So the earlier you get in, the better your odds are. And like, again, I'm just speaking for physical therapy here. The PT CAS, the personal statement is basically the same year to year. So you can look up, what the current question is. You can pre-write your essays, schedule your jury exam so you have enough space going forwards. Leave a month, so it can be submitted on time. Reach out early to professors for letters of recommendation. And even for individual schools, like if let's say you want to apply to, 10 schools, it's going to take a lot of time to write those essays, but you can go on Reddit and look up last year's essay questions, and they're all there. They're pretty much the same. So, my greatest piece of advice for applying is, you really want to have things done ahead of time. And I know that's easier said than done, especially for those people who aren't taking a gap year and are juggling this work and school. But I really recommend it if you can, because you're just setting yourself up for success there.
Yeah, I think that applies for any application, really. Thank you so much. Rochelle, would you like to go next?
Sure, I can go next. The advice that I was often given was don't do medicine and like do something else, which was really, really annoying to hear. But I will say like the best advice I was also given was like be realistic about what your expectations in the future are going to be like. I think every individual is different. Some people are comfortable working beyond the 9 to 5. Others, like myself, are not. So I think it might seem like a big pressure to envision what you want in the next like 10, 15 years or whatever for your career, but you have to have like I feel like that mental conversation also, especially for women, is not really talked about. Like, do you want to have kids? Like, when do you want to have if that's like something you want to do? Like some medical schools do offer to freeze your eggs like part of your residency, some don't. Like if do you want to have are you comfortable like moving around? Like certain program fields, like a lot of their residency programs are in the middle of nowhere. So like that might seem like a big pressure to think about, but I do think that conversation kind of gets skimmed over because like you have all these other like, oh, you have to get this done, you have to get that done, you have to do the research, you have to do this, you have to do that. I think like the social conversation needs to be thought about a little bit of like, what are you willing to sacrifice for this? And what are things that you're not willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to like move around and have like crazy hours? Are you willing to like for a few years? Are you willing to wait till like beyond 30 if you want to consider having children for some programs? Like that's probably not what some people want to hear, but it's something that I definitely had to think about going into like medicine. And I think like um just at least for my field, it was one of the reasons why I picked it was because I wanted an easier lifestyle because I realized like that for me was important. And my only other advice would just to be other like Ben kind of summed it up was to be proactive about your applications, like know what your options are. A lot of the time I see a lot of med students who like were only doing MD or like DO track, And like, let's say something falls short on their application. Their MCAT's not great. Their GPA is not hitting where it needs to be. They can't get this like certain manner like Rex. They didn't do research. I don't think like it kind of breaks my heart to see these like applicants completely drop medicine and like just like completely leave bio as a field. I think you should just know your options. Like you can always retake the MCAT. You could, if you really want to do MDDO, like at least for podiatry, you don't take a separate test. It is the MCAT. Their grading point averages are lower than like MD and DO schools. So like if you feel like your score is not great, look at podiatry as a second option. We don't require research, so like that takes away some strain from applicants. And yeah, just like make sure that what you're doing is for the right reasons and the reasons are supported by your actions. That's all.
Yeah, I think you definitely should take into consideration what your lifestyle is going to be in the future and what you really want to do. If it is something you want to pursue, of course you could always do that, right? Okay. Can I get, let's see, Jasmine next?
I got a piece of advice a very long time ago, but it's a little different than what I think the sentiment has been. It was to imagine the worst case scenario and ask yourself if you can survive it. Because I think a lot of the times you are afraid of reaching out to maybe PIs. What if they say no? What if they don't like your like CV? Or what if you apply and you don't get in? And during the application process, when you do get these rejections, it is very disheartening, and you will think to yourself, like, what if? Like, why have all these schools just decided this is not the career path for me? But you can just ask yourself, let's say I don't get in. Will I survive that this time? And then you can apply again. And then you can just figure out how much of it can you survive. And a lot of times it's a lot more than you think.
Yeah, for sure. I think perseverance is definitely really important if you're going to go into pre-med or pre-health or whatever. Can I get Malika next?
Yes, so an advice that I got was you'll never know until you try. So whether it's like about applying to different internships or volunteering or like just asking a doctor or anyone to shadow or being part of someone's lab, like it will never hurt to just try to like reach out, just try to apply. Because like most of the time, well, not most of the time, like some of the times I would be like hesitant to apply because I was thinking like I'm not good enough, but someone did tell me once like you just do it because you'll never know until you try. So, and that kind of also led me to be more proactive in reaching out. And yeah, that really helped a lot.
Thank you so much. Okay, last but not least, Nada.
So, I remember like asking people that had like made it to their chosen career path during like my interview season, like what can I do to be like successful in my interviews? And they kept like basically all of them would say like be yourself. And I was like, why are they gatekeeping? Like, why won't they give me like good advice that like I could use during my interviews? But it was only like when I got to my interviews that like I really felt what they meant. And I also realized that that was something that like in general, I think meaning be genuine, like both in your interviews and in all your interactions, really, because that's honestly going to be what gets you in. But also on both sides, you want the other person to accurately feel out like what your personality is like, because you don't want to like say the correct things and then it not actually be a fit. Because on both sides, like you have to fit the school and the school has to fit you. And when you're genuine, that is the most accurate way that both of you can like make sure that like the situation works. And I think the same thing goes with like your letter of recommendation writers, your mentors, like any connection we really want to make, just be genuine. Don't say the things that you think need to be said. Don't yeah, I guess don't try to be an image of what you think will get you into your dream program. Really just like be yourself, be respectful, be curious, and like those will be the things that truly like help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Yeah, guys, feel free to ask any questions you have. We're gonna keep going for about 20 more minutes. It looks like some people are leaving already, but feel free to continue asking questions as we go.
All right.
See.
Thank you so much to our panelists who have already spoken and are leaving. Your time and insights were very valuable and much appreciated. We're now going to be switching over to a question for all panelists. Do you have any advice on staying motivated while studying for required classes or exams that do not relate too much to your interests or intended field of study? For example, the MCAT. Let's see. Ben, would you want to take this first?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it can be hard to be grateful for what we have, and it can be hard to see the greater picture while we're kind of still in it. But I think like once you identify your passion, once you recognize what you're working towards, um, you can always think of whatever you're doing again as a means to an end, whether it's, you know, a GPA you need, or, you know, just a letter of recommendation from that professor. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much, as Rochelle said. You know, your performance in graduate school will matter if this is what you're moving towards. And I do want to assure all of you that once you do get to graduate school, every class, or nearly every class, is going to be exciting and captivating because it's going to be what you're studying for. PT school is so much fun. We're hands-on, we're in labs, we're learning the newest technology, evidence-based medicine, and it's exciting. Like, you know, sitting there in the lectures, it's exciting. You know, you're learning from the best, you're learning what's going to be practical to your field. And I know it's not always that way in undergrad. So either take what you can from it or recognize that, you know, it's as important as you make it to be, whether it's, again, just studying for a grade or for a letter of recommendation. You know, try not to stress out too much.
Thank you so much. Albert, do you have any advice?
I think it's important to always keep the bigger picture in mind. Like you're going to be struggling now and studying really hard, but just knowing that you're one step closer to getting where you want to be in the end is always important. And it just always helps keep me motivated, at least. Just knowing that all your hard work that you're putting in now is going to pay off someday later when you finally have the career that you want. So yeah, I keep that mindset all the time for myself.
Thank you. Michelle, how about you?
I think Abel brings up like a good point about big picture. I think this is not going to be the first hard test you take, and it's not going to be the last. I just think that like, I think instead of just worrying about like in the moment, you like have a realistic conversation with yourself. Like, I also think like it is okay to accept like not doing well on a test. Like, if you can afford to do so. Like, I like personally for me, like if I had like a rough week and I know I'm mentally not there, rather than just like killing myself or just like straight up dropping everything, I kind of have like a realistic conversation. I'm like, okay, what hit can I take like on my GPA on this exam? Like if I know mentally I'm not all there and I still need to pass this exam, but how well do I need to do? Or like there have been instances in grad school where I'm like, I haven't passed all my exams because they're harder. And I just think it's important to like be kind to yourself. You're a human being. Like I think this process is going to be hard for a very long time, and I think if you just like are very open with yourself and not so harsh on yourself, like you can achieve it. You just have to like put into perspective. I think there are certain tests that are far more important, like your MCAT, that kind of takes like precedent over like a class that might not be relevant to the pre-med track, that might be, and even my experience is a little bit different than Ben. Some of the classes I take are still irrelevant to what I'm doing because I do take some courses that are like directly correlated to MD and DO. And like personally, I don't really need to know genetics as a podiatrist, but like you just have to do what you got to do. Like you're always going to be taking courses and continuing education lectures like in your field in academia, regardless of what type of academia you are, that you just have to do. have to do these courses. Like I do think like there's a little bit of like suck up energy you have to take in. Like you have to like suck it up a little bit, like be realistic about what score you're expecting and what you can tolerate and how much effort you can put in. And also just remember that like there's certain tests that are more important, like your boards and like your MCAT, like those kind of take precedent, and like give yourself some room to mess up a little because it's not that big of a deal if you do.
Thank you so much. I definitely agree that having a little bit of room, a little bit of flexibility is important. Sarah, do you have any more Greenberg advice to share related to that?
Well, we share very similar mindsets. So this, I'm not going to echo what she said because she covered a lot of what I would probably say because we're both partners as any ourselves in each other. But for me personally, honestly, like if you're not letting yourself do that one relaxing 1 hour activity or like that one thing, that one fun activity in the week simply because you have an exam, let go of that mindset. Like you're always gonna have something to do. You're always gonna have the next assignment. There's always gonna be something you have to study for. So like if the only thing holding you back is all your academic expectations, forget about it. Take that hour, take that 4 hours, take that entire Saturday if you need it. Like realistically, it's worth it in my opinion. Like I've spent so many times just like staying in on a weekend or like not seeing friends or just not enjoying my life. And I feel like it starts to accumulate way faster than if you were to just like strategically give yourself like, okay, if I study today for like 2 hours, tomorrow I get an hour for myself to do this. Or I'm gonna go and like see friends or something like that. Like prioritize your own individuality through the process because you get so caught up in this whole like pre-health bubble, which is like I totally get that. Like Hunter really is like that priming environment for it. But at the same time, like you're an individual, you have your own interests, and you obviously need downtime for everything. Even in like dental school, right? Like I literally had 2 exams this morning. Like I'm just here chilling and talking, right? Like I'm not here studying for the next thing that I have tomorrow. But like, yeah, it's just like sometimes you have to make time for yourself because the end of the day, like if you're not enjoying the times that you have and like being your own person, you're gonna come into everything super negative and you're just not gonna get through everything. Even if you did dedicate the whole weekend, it's gonna take you double the time to get through like one lecture slide or one exam material versus like strategically placing the times that you have for your week. So yeah, in addition to being all realistic and you know all these great study tips and like all this like proactivity, whatever it is, at the same time, like cut yourself some slack. Like you can like go watch a movie or you can just go out to eat like here and there. It's not gonna drastically alter your capacity to perform well. And even if you don't perform well, like it's totally fine. Like the standard in grad school academics versus obviously undergrad academics is very different. Like our GPAs, it depends if you go to like, you know, pass fail school. It depends if your school doesn't mind if you get C's and things. Obviously, that's the difference in grad school. Like I know Hunter makes you feel pressure that you have to have perfect grades all the time, but also everyone I know at Penn, holistic applicant. Like some people have perfect GPAs and best DAT scores I've ever seen, me, but like I'm still here with them, right? So obviously it's not all the grades. There has to be other components involved. Your, you know, your communication skills, your extracurricular experiences, your passion for the profession really say a lot about you. So like don't let whatever grades you have limit your capacity to be who you want to be.
Thank you so much. That's great advice to be well-rounded and do more if you're a whole human being to actually be a whole human being in your interests as well. All right, Nada, do you have any advice? And maybe you could speak more to the question in terms of like MCAT studying because it seems like the student who asked is on the pre-med track.
Yeah, so I agree with all the advice that's been given. I really do feel like the language you speak to yourself like influences your motivation to study. I think like speak to yourself, tell yourself you're excited, tell yourself like this is like a personal challenge. This is for my growth. Like this is like for me to show that like I can study and accomplish a goal and do well on this test or just, you know, achieve my goal. I think also, I mean, even beyond MCAT, if there's like other classes that you feel like are like in the way of your MCAT, like you can treat it as like this is my one time to like see this subject or like do physics or whatever. Cause like it'll come back maybe in like little touches like in graduate school, but like you'll never really sit down and like get a whole course on physics or get a whole course on sociology or whatever. And so it's like your one time to see it. And that's also what I tell myself like during clinical rotations. Like there might be specialties that I'm like, oh, I don't really think I'm interested in it, but it's like my one time to see it because I'll dedicate myself, like I'll have the rest of my life to dedicate to like one topic or one field. So like it's really nice to like use my time now to like look at the scope of things. And I think it all builds like foundation. Like I think when you understand how different things work, yes, you won't remember like all those details and they might not even seem like they matter for graduate school, but like you ultimately keep building your knowledge. And I think it's very helpful to be like, I kind of remember like how the world works from physics. I kind of remember like how this works from like biochemistry, even though it might not be like I'm going to be using like this piece of information to treat my patients. I think it's all like helpful for you at the end of the day.
Thank you so much. Malika, do you have any more to share? Also related to MCAT studying possibly?
Just want to echo what everyone said. I guess for me, what helped me, was just seeing the bigger picture, like someone was mentioned, and like just realizing that after, you get through these required classes, you'll just be like closer to your career path. And something that I did is just like try to find something, like one thing positive about the class to kind of help me keep going, and definitely always take breaks because you don't want to burn out. Like, these are just classes. Like, you have to take care of your mental and like physical health. That should be your number one priority. And in terms of the MCAT, it's definitely like an exhausting exam to study for. But I think like once you get into a routine, have your like set study schedule, it'll definitely like help you, but definitely also take breaks. And when I was studying for my MCAT exam, what I realized was a lot of the things that we have learned as like pre-meds, like in bio or biochemistry, and even like in physics as well, like it really like helped me because like it gave me that foundation, obviously, right? So these classes might be like challenging, but like try to pay attention because they do help for the MCAT. Like I saw a lot of like similarities.
Thank you so much for that advice, everybody. So we have about 12 minutes left. I'm gonna ask one more question, but if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to add them to the chat so we could get through them really quickly. So this is a question for everybody. What motivates you to continue pursuing your career path, and how to avoid burnout? So we talked a little bit about this. I'll repeat that again, sorry. What motivates you to continue pursuing your chosen career path, and how do you avoid burnout? Let's start with Alba.
So I kind of spoke about this for the last question, but the biggest thing that motivates me is always keeping the bigger picture in mind. And something I didn't talk about before, but I think is important, is always taking things step by step. So instead of thinking I have 4 years until I'm gonna be this certain, I'm gonna be like, for me, I have this many years to be a PA. Instead of thinking like that, think I have one more week until I get through this exam, or like I have this much longer until I get through the semester. So just looking at things with baby steps rather than looking at the bigger picture, it just helps me stay motivated and feel more accomplished when I say like, okay, I got through this exam, I got through this, I got through that. I think that's important. And then what I just mentioned before, just always keeping the bigger picture in mind and knowing that everything that you're doing is going to pay itself off and you're going to see all your success in the end from all of it.
Yeah, I definitely think it's important to take it one step at a time, but also know exactly what you're working for and not just doing it as you go. Yeah, and if you guys have any last advice as well while we're talking, feel free to add that as well. Rochelle, would you like to go next? And Alba, if you have any advice, you can stop me now.
I can go next if Alba's done. I guess, well, what motivates me is the tremendous loans I have taken on to do this path, but like, you know, it kind of like I feel like in undergrad, everyone feels like they're too far deep into the decision. And like, I think that's kind of ridiculous just because like, I know Hunter's not expensive. So like, you're not that deep into it. You know what I mean? Like grad schools are all like 50 to 60K, like on the cheaper side. So like, that's why I'm kind of telling you like, what motivates me is A, I want to pay off my loans. B, like, at the end of the day, like, I might not get like perfect grades, I might not get everything, but I want to be the best provider that I can be. So like for me, it's important that like my mental clarity on like what I want out of like my career and my life is there. Like I think it's like it's really important for you to kind of like build that mental strength. If you feel like it's not there, like therapy is like a super normal thing to do. Like it is also okay if like one semester you need to get on like antidepressants. Like a lot of my class are either on antidepressants or on stimulants. Like it's not that like obscure. I'm not saying that's everyone's choice, but I'm saying like there are a lot of options out there for like help, and I think there's no shame in asking for them. I know like Hunter's campus therapy was pretty whack, so like I'm not surprised if people are not used to like having that option there. Um, and I think also just making sure you have a support system like for yourself. Like I really think making friends is super important to like being mentally okay in school. Like I would not have survived without my group in undergrad at Hunter, and I would not survive with my group currently in grad school. So like if you're studying for the MCAT, me and my best friend sat in a room together for 8 hours and studied together, like for a couple months, and it helped. Like all we were doing was doing like practice questions together. Like we weren't really speaking to each other, but the presence of having friends there really does help. Like I do think like that's not talked about. Like everyone's kind of pitted against each other a little bit, especially in Hunter. Like the like competitive energy is ridiculous. But make friends and like rely on each other. Like share resources, like share feelings, have breaks with each other. Like it really helps to make friends with people who are on the same path as you, because you're studying, they're studying too. Study together. Like put yourselves in a room, like do the same work together. Don't feel like you have to do this all on your own just because like that's kind of how it's formed, honestly. Like the structure of it is very isolating, but it doesn't have to be.
Those were all great pieces of advice. I hope everybody got that. Nada, can you go next if you have any pieces of advice or if you want to talk about burnout and the like?
Yeah, I mean, I agree definitely with Rochelle. Like, find your people, like, find the people that like understand you and are on a similar path, and like you can either vent with or even just like sit in a room and study with, and you both kind of had this mutual understanding that this is something you have to get through. Um, I think also, again, like just reminding myself of like what my goals are, like why I went into this path, and um, being like very also gentle with myself, like in medical school, especially the first year and a half, like you at least also at Cornell, it's like a pass-fail curriculum. And so like you really have to reframe your mindset. You don't have to be the student that gets a 99. You're also going to get through your path if you get a 65, but you also don't want to always be at the cusp of 65. So it's just like finding that balance of like take time for yourself. Don't like overstress yourself for like a couple extra points or like stuff like that. But at the same time, like keeping myself motivated, knowing that like this is all for like I want the skills. I want the again the clinical skills and the research skills. And so like everything I'm learning now is to build myself to that point. And so again, it's just like really grounding myself and in like what I want at the end of the day from my training.
Yeah, that's great advice. Definitely you should be keeping in mind what you're doing as you keep going. I think we sort of echoed this a couple of times as well, which is great. Ben, would you like to go next?
Sure. I mean, I just be echoing sentiments that I heard, which is that you need to take time for yourself. At least in undergrad, like you can identify what is strong about your application. If you don't have like one specific thing that, can make you stand out, I recommend, pursuing something, whether, if it's not your academics, then, show extracurriculars, show you're well-rounded, put a lot of time into your application or your essays, or ensure that you have, something stunning, letters of recommendation, something that stands you out. But at the end of the day, in undergrad, it's not all about your grades, and especially going into graduate school, like it's much more important that you enjoy what you do and find happiness, like take time for yourself. There will be time to focus on school, and you will find your people, and you will just eventually move down a career path that is interesting to you. So not to stress too much about like the little things like grades or about exams, like a few points aren't worth it, as someone said.
Yeah, definitely keeping your identity in mind is really important. Malika, would you like to go next? If you have any pieces of advice or if you want to talk about burnout, anything?
Yeah, like everyone mentioned great points and like I want to say add on to that as well. So I guess to avoid burnout, what I do is just like taking time for myself, obviously, like doing things that I love. Just it could be like just watching your favorite TV show, anything, right? Like just I know it's hard because you probably think like, oh, I have an exam coming up, this and that, right? Like it's very hard, but like trust me, it will help a lot. Like just taking some time for yourself and doing something that you love because you're gonna get into that like good mindset to like, continue studying. So definitely it could be hard, but you should definitely take time for yourself. And also having a great support system definitely helps, like a positive group of friends who are always there for you, who are always supporting you, or like your family, definitely having a good support system helps a lot. And so something that keeps me motivated to continue pursuing the career that I've chosen is I guess like someone mentioned before, seeing the bigger picture, knowing that like after I'm done with everything, I'll be able to practice and do something that I've been wanting to do from the beginning. And just like seeing that at the end, I'll be able to help my patients and just advocate for them, what we all are doing this for. So I guess just keeping that in mind really helps. And also
Yeah.
just to add on, like like even though if you fail an exam, like it's not the end of the world. Like I failed a couple of exams, you'll still will make it. Like your academics don't have to define you. There are other aspects of your application, like your personal statements, your experiences. So I like just like again, like your academics don't need to define you. Just as long as you're like trying your best, being proactive, you'll be fine. Like at the end of the thing, you'll just be fine. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely keep your identity in mind as you keep going. And to close us off, would Sarah like to go?
Okay, so I mean, everyone touched on a lot of obviously like go-to topics. I'm gonna give a more blunt take on this because in addition to like agreeing with everything everybody said, I think motivationally wise, like it obviously depends on the profession. In dentistry, it's so hands-on so early on that you don't feel like, you're getting through for classes when you get there. Like I'm seeing my first set of patients next month and I'm a second year. It's like that's just like the framework to you that like you can jump into grad school already seeing patients and doing treatment on this. Like for me, that's my biggest motivation because I'm already doing the work I'm gonna be doing on people very soon. And I think that obviously differs depending on the profession and grad school you're interested in. But also like be selective about where you go. Like totally do your research and use your resources because like the program you go and the structure of that program will really influence your experience, your like capacity to have burnout or not, and your motivation in the profession. So if you're interested in something that has like, for example, if you don't want to continue in an environment where it's very grade centric, apply to schools that have pass fail tendencies. If you're interested in a school that has really like didactic early clinical experience, like try to apply to those because that for me was my motivation. I wanted to be a place where I could start doing stuff because as much as I love sitting in lecture for 3 to 4 hours, I actually would rather sit for 3 to 4 hours in clinic working on a patient. So like you have to kind of gauge that as obviously like in your later parts of your profession. So this is probably more later on once you start really being serious about your application. Early on advice, honestly, just like I don't know. I get really highly motivated by fear a little bit. It's terrible to say that. I know it's like not a toxic statement to say, but I actually like got super motivated during my DAT like study time because like I knew like there's a the win all or lose all thing. So that might be like a slight gambler mindset where it's like a high risk, high reward situation. But for me, it was like, okay, like this is my moment. This is the chance. Like for me, like it really motivated me. to, you know, make it work, because like this is the moment where like I can really define my life. And I think like that probably masked any of the burnout I was experiencing, because of just like the high of like, I'm gonna get there, it's gonna make it work, positivity of like the endless opportunities. But I think also like just if you really like want to avoid burnout, I find comfort in having a long-term plan. I know everyone's telling you like, like, be kind to yourself and be flexible, but like genuinely, if you create like a set template of like, this is what I want to get done this year, like not necessarily this week, just like this year. This year, I want to have a clinical experience. This year, I want to do one extracurricular in addition to what I'm doing right now. Like that'll probably help you just like one, manage everything better, but also like two, just like anticipate your needs a little bit more easily, so that you aren't going to burn yourself out trying to get it all done like your third or fourth year. And then you're like, great, now I have to do volunteer hours. I have to somehow get research and published right before like I finish and this and that. Like totally like pace yourself and everything will align, even if it's super duper busy.
Yeah, I think that's everything everybody said was really great advice, and I think this is a good place to end off on. Thank you for all the panels for answering all the questions. If you would like, please leave your email in the chat so people could ask you any more questions if they have any. And I'd like to pass this on to Nisha to close out.
Yep. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. And a special thanks to Nashin and Amita. You guys were awesome. And thank you to all of our panelists. Your advice was honestly so motivating and helpful. Yeah, feel free to leave your emails in the chat if you're comfortable. And have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.